brother. Get a precision.
Oh, how I love Jesus. Oh, how I love Jesus. So, how I love Jesus. Because he first loved me. So once upon a time, God created man and woman, created Adam, and he created Eve. And he left them in the garden. He said, okay, guys, just don't eat off of that tree right there, that fruit. That's a little too much information. That's the too much information tree. But you can eat off the fruit of any of the other trees and do whatever you want. It's all good. So they went, and then this tree, other knowledge of good and evil, it's like TMI. It's like the snake said, hey, dude, that knowledge is pretty sweet, dude. It seems like TMI at first, but then you're just like, dude, I know so much. It's like more than I would have. I hadn't eaten this TMI fruit. TMI is one of those things, at first it's like uncomfortable because, dude, it's like TMI, I can't handle it. Too much. And then you either give up and walk away or you start digging in. Well, what is this too much? Let me see. So that's what they were at that choice to do, and it was kind of too much. That's why they originally weren't going to do it. Because it was TMI. It's too much information. So he said, don't eat it. It's TMI. But the devil made it sound so good. So, what the heck? Let's try it. Well, the TMI might have been kind of like, when you find out about sex before you really were thinking about it. Because maybe some porn got on your eyes or something. You just stumbled upon something. However it happened doesn't really matter. It's not like you were trying to get it. Because they're all those too. But we're not talking about that. So, when you do that, what happens is your mind gets like kind of TMI because you weren't looking for that. You weren't thinking about it. But then when you did, it's like, whoa, this is like TMI. But that's kind of interesting because I never really thought about that. And it does go with one of the basic desires. And it's kind of an exciting desire when you actually do it, So, let's say that they got that TMI, kind of like seeing that porn, and they were like, hey, you know what? We should try this. And they did. It was pretty good. But when they were done, they felt bad because they were like, crap, this is really good, but I wonder if it would have been better if we would have just waited, because it's like, it was so TMI, it kind of was uncomfortable at first, and then we got it was all right, but then after it was over, now we're kind of like, want to hide. And we don't want to see our privates because they look weird and they don't feel like they did before. So they covered them up so that at least they didn't have to deal with them looking a little different and feeling a little different because they never really went there with those. But now they had all this TMI, they had to, check it out. And the TMI didn't really go over what to do if they felt kind of weird like that, So then God came in the garden and talked to him like I always did. He's like, hey guys, where we at? And they're like, oh, we're over here. What happened? Why did you cover yourself up? And they said, oh, well, we ate that TMI fruit. And he said, oh, really? And that's what happened. That's what over there. Yep. So, are you happy you did that? Well, not so much. Yeah, me too, because now you gotta shorten your life, and you gotta, do all this crap. Gotta kick you out of the garden, because now it's too good for you. Because now you're probably gonna wear clothes and make a house, and... Because if you were a tree, you're just living outside with the trees, and camping on the beach or whatever. That's the funnest life, but... You want to do this? So that's fine. Let's do that. So then they did that. So then we'll just forget all that for a while. Okay? That just happened. And then I just we got forgiven and we worked it out. It's all good. But another thing happened was when Moses got his people out of the bondage of slavery under the Egyptians. They were grumbling, please, God, help us get out here. But when Moses came and helped them, they almost made Moses into God because I hadn't seen God. They prayed to him and things happened, but it's so different when you got the guy that's there and he's like totally with God and you're like, hey, this guy's it. So he was kind of like their God coach, but if he wasn't around, they kind of got nervous. So that's what happened. He went up to talk to God for 40 days and they were like, this guy's dead. What are you doing, brother Aaron? Let's do something. And Aaron said, well, let's grab some gold, put your jewelry in a pot, and then we'll put it in the fire and see what happens. And they did, and now it come this like golden calf, look kind of like Baphomet or whatever. But all of a sudden, people decided to do weird things. Well, Moses is gone and Aaron was babysitting. Now, it doesn't look like Aaron had a prayer meeting, but he did do something. Or maybe he had a prayer meeting for somebody else. But anyway, they kept doing what they were doing. And then, as they had the idol and everything, something in the midst of it, some of these people just became overwhelmed with, let's play with little kids and have like a little, thing right here in the dirt in front of the cow and everything, and almost like a ritual. But it was the same kind of like TMI thing where they just said, hey, what if we just like had sex like we were like monkeys and just jumped on each other like a bunch of us, like a 10 or I don't know how many people. So they did. And there was others there that were kind of watching like, wow, that's pretty wild. I probably would, like, wow. But like they didn't want to jump in because it just didn't, they weren't full with them on it. It was just, there was something about it just didn't feel quite right. So in the midst of all this, and they're still in the midst of having all the fun and everything, and Moses comes down the mountain, and he sees it, and he gets all mad. He throws tablets down, and then all of a sudden, lightning comes from heaven and strikes the ones that were most playful, totally dead, and then puts a line right there where the other guys are like watching, and then says, are you trying to step over this line? Because this is where those guys is like frying for because they went too far. And the rest of them are like, no, God, we're all good, And their faith was like incredible in that moment. So, we said, okay, let's do this, So they talked about this and everything, and he worked it out. I got forgiven again, but there was something about the ones that didn't, that got, burned up. And it's similar to the ones in Adam and Eve, because they went too far, so they got kicked out of the garden. So what if it was just simply something like that, something so simple that people just didn't want to, like, follow the rules. And if they would have just left the TMI fruit till later, they could have just been naked all the time and have fun. And the birds and everybody would be like with them and help them, sing to them when they need to wake up in the morning. And all these things, and we wouldn't need all these stupid things in these houses and all this stuff. So when this whole thing first, with this whole COVID thing, I first started thinking, well, if I was like a church pastor and was trying to have a house of prayer, but I knew that Jesus was always upset about so many houses of prayer that weren't houses of prayer, they were dens of thieves. And I noticed that they always wanted offering, they got to give the tithe, they got to give the tithe. And I'm thinking, how many people's wages are we paying here when everybody's going depressed and losing their job? Seems to me like some pastors should be laid off, or at least some pastors would walk away from their paycheck, especially the main ones, and open up their house and say, you know what? If people want to go live in my house, it's not really mine anyway because I got it from a tithe of this church. And if I'm a servant of this church, and I know that everybody's going broke and going homeless, then I should make a, how to camp in your car homeless class, or just camping out where the skid row of the homeless in their cars is in my town, and show them my love by saying, hey, I'm just trying to be around. And if I could just, have a cigarette with them or whatever and not look down on them and try to be one of them, like a neighbor, and not think like, what happened to you? How you could do this to you? Because if it's going to happen to all of us pretty soon, then wouldn't it be kind of like a brother to go see how it would be on that side of the fence? And as I waited and watched, I noticed that many of these churches were masking up more than any of them were saying, I think I want to go live in my car. And it didn't seem there was much pity for these people, other than, well, you should come to my church, and maybe if you, whatever. But so that's what I think had a lot to do with the trouble we're in now, the economy that's exploding. And nobody wants to admit it while they're betting the stock market like the racetrack of the future. But all of it is just like the TMI again. Go for the fruit, but there's nothing there. It's all going away tomorrow. And Jesus has the gold that's lasting forever. And it's made by him, so there ain't nothing to worry about as far as the value of it. So, if we were to learn our lessons from just a couple two mistakes from Moses and Adam and Eve, then we should realize that a lot of times we take it a little too far with the TMI and the, let's try this. No, we didn't need to try that. So now that everybody's in this place where, oh no, blah, 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 we're going to do this, the back's the back. It's all so simple. We just go back to Adam and Eve and say, hey, I want to love you, God. I want to love you right. And I want to love my neighbor as myself. And that means homeless or whatever. And that I won't care about this money. I mean, I'll get some. Maybe I can get a loan, whatever. But it's all going away anyway. So it's not something to stress about. And if I can find a way to invest in the future, like go to a dealership and say, hey, within a few years, I'll have gold. It's going to be good gold. So if you want to sell me a car on loan, just give me one that's not new. Because I'd really love to, go to the Porsche dealer and say, hey, I don't want to see the stuff in the front lot. And they're like, what? Don't you have something in the back? I'm like, well, I need to find a Porsche that's been in a couple fender benders. It's about 5 years old, but it runs like a top. It's got the best engine they make, and the miles on it are perfect. But it just doesn't look so pretty because I don't want to worry about it. And I don't want to think somebody's going to rip it off. So if the paint's a little faded, that's just my style. Because this is not a time to get, thieves going. So then I thought, well, I wonder how that's going to work with it. I'm trying to get credit with them. So it's kind of a complicated situation. But you see that sometimes it might work better that way because then I'm not trying to get too much, you know what I mean? And so if we were thinking more like that, and thinking, wow, God, sorry, we screwed up. But would you help us to get on the same page and think, hey, everybody could be together here. We all could worship you. We all could be just like the Bible says. And then we wouldn't keep having these problems. And we'd all be happy instead. And so let's think about happiness and what we can do to make it and how things like sex are beautiful, but let's just wait till it's time to take it because all the things, some of the biggest things that happen with problems, it seems to be a lot of it just going too far before it was time to go at all. And if we could just back up, look over it again, and then go back to the Garden of Eden and say, okay, Lord, we'll be naked this time. And we'll try to look at the eyes first and get some communication before we start thinking that we're trying out for tomorrow's porn star or something. So it's not really that deep, but sometimes when your joy comes from a simple source, that's where you're planted and it's somewhere that's solid. So you don't have to worry about shifting sands because right now we don't want to be shifting sands. And we can find a way to be solid for our King. Just tell him, Lord, help me because this is a dream. And if you're going to give me if we're all going to be naked, it would be so much fun to see women like that. But I don't want to be messed up, starting my own porn company from it. But I do want to thank you that you did make us like that, and that there is like a desire in me to be it like that. And so there must be a better way to like think like that without thinking messed up like so many have. And now that we're like trying to get a good porn going, I don't even understand that there might be a porn that would be blessed by you, because it's just showing the body that we're created in. As long as we're not trying to make idols of ourselves, we're just showing our beauty to each other, and then we'll like each other better, and it would all be good. Because maybe all the part of covering up with clothes has made us such liars and cheaters that there's not a love of trust and love for each other. And the way people look has become ugly in too many ways, so that we don't trust what we see or we hear or we see. So we could start like all over and just be like naked and simple and true. And not talk about wild things that are just nuts. But just talk about truth simply. And if we were naked and stuff and we could talk like that, probably enjoy each other more and not be all messed up in a chat. Sorry, I had to say chat. I love chat. But anyway, so I just want you to think about these things and be joyful and not find everything wrong with everything, because maybe the greatest reset is just another chance that we can start all over right. And then when he brings those aborted babies back, and that'll fix that, and that'll fix that, and we'll fix make all the organics happy again. And I wanted to say, the other day when I went off when Biden was speaking, I said, we need to make the Department of Education BSF, which means that it's a Bible study fellowship that has school level learning of all parts of the Bible, and it's got like 8 years on the program, and they're all school year based, and you study every week. So if we had that like as a base to make sure that people got education about God, that would like turn over our education system in like a minute without worrying about all the Rockefeller bullshit. Because when you get into the Bible, you see right through the other one, and the lies would be easy to throw away because it'd be so obvious right there. And then we could start rewriting history with true books or whatever. But if we start with the Bible, that's the key to go. And then I said, and you also got to take Willie Nelson, who's got an organic bud company, and you got to make him in charge of all buds in the United States with no tax. And so there's not any like tax for importing across state lines and stupid shit. And then I said, and you need to delete the IRS, because after all, it's located in Puerto Rico. It's not in the U.S., so it's just another scam. So when we get those government scams out of the way, and we get that, and it seems like I first thought when I put it that, oh, this is crazy, but then all that stuff happened with John. I'm like, well, maybe it did say something. Well, then I looked on the radio, and they're talking about how they're loosening up cannabis laws, and it's really clear that they're going to make nationwide cannabis, and that Oregon rules the cannabis market. And I was like, wow, that's exactly like my dream. So let's get things planned out for the goodness that's to come. And let's focus on the King and the goodness that he's trying to bring. And then we won't get sad and stressed out. Even like me, I was in a chat with over 3,000 people, at least some of the time. And there's one false prophet girl, I'll tell you what, she was a fighter because she was preaching without a king. And I kept saying, you need to identify your king, otherwise you're not with me. That means you're on a UFO ship to the cold planet with Leonard Nimoy, with cold-blooded back, because you're just like a cold-blooded fiend, and you have no heart, and there's no love in you, and you don't want everybody to bow down to the king. You're not selfish. Have your own little Jesus. And those people are going to go on their own little Jesus club to their own little planet of selfishness. And I was going back and forth, and this woman was saying stuff like, shouldn't take the Lord's God name in vain. Just weird things. It's like I was trouble, but not without saying it. And then like all these things, and then I just started like attacking her with everything she said, because I wanted to like get her to fess up or walk away. And literally, she never stopped. And even in the end, it was like everybody in the chat knew, which is important for me, and that's why I do it. Because when there's 3,000 people there that can be led astray, and they're buying into her shit, and it's not true, and and she was quick to tell him, if you need spiritual encouragement, go read the book of John. But she was scared to death of Matthew. And I finally said, yeah, I taught the Bible for 10 years to third graders, but my favorite book was Matthew to teach. And I can't get anybody to find teaching it now or ever since. And she got a little quiet after I said that. But then she started up again about how she likes John and stuff. And I said, well, if you're not with the king, then you're not on my side of the fence. So I'm just going to tell you goodbye, because it looks like you're sold out to this alien thing. And it was amazing, because I'm just trying to keep other people away from her. Now I already know she's a wolf. But I can't in a chat say, you, and say her name, and say, you are evil. Because then the chat gets a little out of hand, because I have come close to that. And the mod that I know, one of my Shakai Hawaiian girls, she's like, bro, hey, take it easy, man. You can't call out her name like that, because it's not good for the chat. And I'm like, oh, sorry. Because I just get to, attack mode, because it's wrong. When you're in a chat, 3,000 people, and somebody's giving you ad for another god that's not the one. So, But I had fun in this one, because I totally burned her out bad. And then by the end of it, the last things I was saying, everybody else in the chat was like, bro, I'm with you, brah. I'm not with that. I can see what you're saying. I'm all good. I know who I'm bound to. And that's what it's all about. Because even if I don't know what was up with her. But maybe God was using her, kind of like that TMI thing, where it's like, you know what? I know she's a false prophet, but I want you to just keep ragging on her and just give her hell, because she was going against God. And so I just figured, oh, this is punishment. I'll give her hell, and I love that, But then I realized after, maybe it wasn't all about that, because there were these people in the chat, maybe, they didn't know. They thought, oh, this guy's a little crazy, but she's a little, you know what I mean? And they didn't know which was. So by seeing me come out and just lay it all out, and then even say I taught third grade Bible, and that girl didn't have nothing to say after I said that, because she hasn't taught, obviously. So when you teach, it's like, if you don't tell them you've taught, then they'll take you on like they want to fight. But then when they don't admit that they're losing, or admit that they haven't done what you've asked them to do to prove what they're saying, then when you say that you're a teacher, you were a teacher for 10 years to third graders, then they look such the fool. See? So it's just kind of like, playing the fool. But I'm not playing the fool. I'm just not, I don't like to brag about how much I've been a teacher. That's stupid. Shouldn't need to do that. I should just teach and people learn. So, we need to work on these things, because there was a great story, if I have time for it, hopefully they'll let me, about this guy in Hendrix, his name was, and he was in college, and he had this one teacher that he just loved so much. The guy could just teach so good that he just wanted to stay after class and learn more. And he couldn't understand what it was with this guy, and he always wished that he could have lunch with him and really pick his brain. But you know how college is. That's kind of weird when you say to the professor, hey, can I go out? What are you trying to get, a better grade? So he didn't want to try to do that. So he was just walking home after school every night, and he walked by this professor's house. And every time he walked by, there was this light on up in this top floor of the house in a weird spot. But it was always on every time he walked by. Sometimes he walked by late at night. It didn't matter. It was always on. So one day he saw the prof, and he's like, hey, prof. Yeah, what's up? He's like, I've been going by your house sometimes late at night and walking by. So you got that light on. What's up there? What's up there? And he goes, oh, that's my study up there, my office. And he goes, what are you doing? He goes, oh, I'm studying. And it's like, well, didn't you already figure it out that's why you're the teacher? And he goes, oh, son, you don't understand that. Yes and no, but because if I'm learning, then my light is burning, because I got stuff coming in to make me sharper and understand and know what it is that I'm teaching about. But if I get to a point where I'm like, okay, I got it, and then there's nothing coming in, then my light gets too dim. And then when I teach, I'm only rehashing what's already in. And there's nothing new to make it brighter and want to grow. And he said, wow. He said that in that moment, his eyes totally got open to what a teacher is and what it's not. Because anybody can say that, okay, I got it all figured out. But teaching from that is not. So if you keep learning, whatever it is, you keep learning and learning. I mean, I like a painter. If I'm painting for not Bill Gates, but people better than him, because there's a guy that lives across from Bill Gates Ranch in at Del Mar Evergate Ranch. That place lives across from it. That place is 10 times Bill Gates Ranch. Not to mention how it's built and how it's painted. Because Bill Gates is just a cheap ass, just like his vax. He's just all about making money. And that's not good, especially at Karma time. So, see, I always thought like Willow Creek would be the kind of ranch that I'd build. Not Bill Gates Evergate Ranch. He just has a fancy flag like it's going to last forever. It's going to last forever when I take it over and make it organic farm. Well, I have said that on the internet to get people going. But, do you see what I'm saying? So, if I paint in that house, that Willow Creek house, even if I paint for Bill Gates, but I don't like that example because it's not my prime, person I want to work for, because he's just got a whitewash house. I mean, he doesn't even use Benjamin Port paint. This is too high budget for him. He's not the richest man yet. So, when I'm painting for the other guy, though, in the nice Willow Creek Ranch over by the Chino's Organic Farm, I mean, then I would just, like, paint, like, every day, like, with all my experience, part of me is still, it's a brand new day, and there's going to be something I'm going to learn to paint that I haven't learned yet today, or yet till today. And if I figure out how to paint it better than I did when this day started, then it's just like that professor. I'm learning a little bit more. And so if you can paint like that for 20 years, then your skills are going to be 20 times what anybody that's been painting any years that ever gets to a point and says, okay, got it figured out. Because that's it. Then they're done. They might as well go to another trade. Because every time you do something, you should be improving it in you. Because that's why practice makes perfect. Otherwise, we'd have instant orchestras just getting together and, I'm sure we'll all be in tune. But that definitely does not work. But when they practice and do get in tune, what the heck? It just blows you away. So think about that, and everything we do would be like that. It would be such a beautiful day. We could think about that like ways about sex and ways about work and ways about play. And then, wow, this reset stuff would be so much easier. And we could just go back to Adam and Eve. And if we need a fig leaf, we've always got that Apple phone. It would cover everything you need. We'll have a little, 2 hooks up on the side or something. But anyway, just think it like that and have a good day. And make it happiness and joy for what's to come and not all negative. And we've got enough of that. Think about how used a Porsche you could find and stuff like that. Because it's not as bad as it looks. And gold's on the way. And the trouble is where the naughty list is due, and it shouldn't be us. So worry not, be happy, and give your glory to the King. And have fun in chats. If you find somebody that won't say King, just keep hitting them up. Let me hear you say King. Let me hear you say King. Because if you're not worshiping the King, you're not with me, and that means you could be going on the UFO. That's the time to wake people up real quick. So keep it up, give glory to the King, and he will come soon and bring it all into sing. Michael row your boat ashore, alleluia. Blah, blah, blah.